These are some of the best guns in the game, and I got you guys the best classes for them. Let's get into it. For the first setup I want to show you, this is going to be the M4, which all around is the best gun in the game. So if you don't have your MGB yet, you should definitely use the M4. So on this M4, we are using the Fulcrum Pro, so you get a lot of horizontal and vertical recoil control. Overall, this is probably like my favorite muzzle, although as you guys can see, all the muzzles kind of do the same thing. I just found for the M4 that the Fulcrum was doing the best. For the underbarrel, you don't really need to run the Edge 47. This is going to give you a lot of recoil control, but it is going to hurt the mobility by a lot. So if that is an issue for you, then I would run the Commando foregrip, or honestly, you could get away with running the Shark Fin 90. By the way, do you want that Orion camo, but you're just a little bit too busy to grind through all 2,000 camos? If so, you should definitely check out Guapsi. Guapsi provides weapon leveling services, camo unlock services, challenge unlock services such as the Warzone Nuke, and many more for all the platforms. For this next attachment, you don't really need to run the overpressured if you don't want to. The reason I run it is because I really like to give the enemies a lot more flinch. Makes it a lot easier to win your gunfights, but if you want to use like the armor piercing, the hollow point, or like the high velocity, I would tune it the same way that I'm tuning the overpressured rounds. And then if you do want to run an optic on the build, or a laser, or maybe you're on shipment and you want to run the 60 round mag, then I would take off the overpressured for one of those attachments. And so now on this setup that has a lot of recoil control, so these next two attachments are to bring that mobility back up, make the weapon not feel as sluggish, which a great way to do so is by adding the X10 grip, which is going to give you that sprint to fire, and the ADS speedness. Seems like the tuning was not saved. That is very annoying. And I do have one more M4 setup I want to show you guys very quickly after this. This one is like a very good like medium range. You can use it at long range, but the other setup I'm going to show you has a little bit more damage range. So if you're trying to get your long shots, you want to use the build I'm going to show you after this. With this setup though, we are going to be running the Ravage 8, which is going to add a lot of mobility to the weapon. It is going to be hurting the recoil control, but that's why we got the muzzle and the underbarrel on there. And then for the tuning, you guys want to increase the mobility even more. Basically, whatever the attachment does, like if it gives you recoil control, I'm usually going to tune it for more recoil control. And then if it gives you mobility, I'm usually going to tune it for more mobility. And so if you guys want to see what the overall build looks like, pretty snappy ADS. Just remember, if you don't want to use the Edge 47, you can use something else like the Commando. And then the overall recoil control, it seems like there's a lot of recoil, but it's just that back iron sight that's moving a lot. That front sight really doesn't move, so try to get used to that. And just in case you guys do want to take a screenshot of the setup, here you guys go. And then for the setup that has a little bit more damage range, if you are a slow player, you are going to love this setup. I'm actually a aggressive player and I love this setup. Basically the same thing, but we're running the Tempest stock on there, tune it just like that. And then we got the high tower barrel on there, which I don't know why it said that. Bring up the recoil steadiness, and then because we already have so much damage range, just increase the ADS speed. And if you do want to run a muzzle on the build, I would take off the ammo and throw on the muzzle that I showed you guys on the previous M4 build. And for the perks and everything, I really run the same thing. For search and destroy, I'm going to be running these perks. If I'm playing respawn, I'm going to be running these perks. And then for respawn, I usually run the dead silence and the trophy, or actually no, I'll run the dead silence and the munitions box. And then if I'm on shipment, then I'll run the munitions box and the trophy system, because on shipment you need the trophy system. Literally just spam it. And for the lethal tactical, I mix these up all the time, but I'm usually going to be running these. And since I like to run around the map a little bit quicker, I am going to be running the combat knife. But if I were to run a pistol, I have like a lot of different setups. I got the P890, so I guess I'll just show you guys real quick. This is the setup I really like on my P890. And then I really like the X13, which the setup I'll be running on my X13 looks like this. And as you guys can see, I'm always running akimbo with my pistols. I just find that the pistols are way better in akimbo. Still good single, it's just they feel kind of broken in akimbo. And lastly, I got you guys the F-Tech Siege, which is the Tech 9. This is probably my most common secondary to be using. This thing is basically a pocket SMG. Very good weapon. I'll show you guys the tuning on here. Looks like I didn't fully tune it. The tunes like do a lot in this game, but they don't do like that much. And so sometimes if I'm not feeling it, I just won't tune the weapon. And that's going to wrap it up for the first class. Now let's get into the buffed LACHMANN 5.56, which this weapon has always been a pretty good weapon, but recently I just got a buff, and so now it's actually a really good weapon. I really recommend you guys to use it. So for the attachments, this is going to be pretty similar to the M4 build. We got the RF crown muzzle for that recoil control. I found that the RF crown was the best for the LACHMANN. For the underbarrel, because we need some recoil control, but we don't really want to hurt the mobility that much, we are going to be running the Commando foregrip, which again, for some reason, it's just not saving my tunes on there. I really don't know why, but you basically want to tune all the underbarrels the same way. And then we are going to be running an ammo, and keep in mind, like I said on the M4 sure this is going to be the attachment that you want to swap out. For the rear grip, we got the LMK for that mobility, and then you want to tune it for that sprint to fire and that ADS speed. And then lastly, we do got the LACHMANN S9 factory stock for a lot of mobility. This is going to make the weapon feel very light, and oh my days, the tunes will just not save. Like, I swear I'm saving it. Let me know in the comments if this ever happens to you, and it seems like you just want to max out those bars. If you do want a little bit more recoil control, then I would add the mobile stock and tune it the same way. And so right here is like my aggressive build. I do have a pro player setup, which it looks like I accidentally somehow got rid of. Oh, right here is the pro player setup. This one is a little bit slower, and so if you're going for your long shots, or you like to sit back a little bit, then I would use this setup. Also, if you are curious of the best rank play setups, I'll have a link above me right now. Definitely go check out that video if you like rank play. There's a lot of like brand new, very good class setups for all the weapons, which I think that is going to wrap it up for the LACHMANN 556. And just in case you guys are curious of how the build looks, pretty good ADS, and this is the pro player one, the one that's a little bit slower than that first one I showed you. Usually I will use this setup on the big maps, and then I'll use the other setup on the small maps. Got the same secondary, lethal, tactical, perks, all the same thing. This next weapon I want to go over is the KASTOV 762. This thing is an absolute beast, 2-shot headshot, one of the most broken guns in the game. They actually banned it from rank play because it was so good. And look at this skin. This thing is absolutely beautiful, and we actually can make it look a little bit more beautiful with the Raid 3 camo. It doesn't look that cool right here, but let me go into the game. You guys will see this thing is beautiful, especially if you run the barrel, like the heated madness barrel, then it looks even better. Some people won't like this, but overall I think this is like one of the coolest blueprint and skins I've ever made. With all that said though, for the class, we are going to be running the Sock and Tread 40 for that recoil control, and you want to tune it for a little bit more recoil control. And then for the underbarrel, we are running the Edge 47. This is going to add a ton of recoil control, but it is going to make the weapon a little bit slow. So if you do want more mobility, then I would add the command of foregrip. And then if you are very good at the game, then I would add the Shark Fin 90. Phase 3 is good too. I didn't really mean to add that. And then for the magazine, you don't really need it, but I found that the weapon's very fun to use with the 40 round mag, so I'm going to be running that. If you do not want to run a 40 round magazine, then I would add the Cronin Mini Pro, tune that for the flinch resistance and make it a little bit farther away from you. You could also run a laser, which the laser I recommend is going to be the OLE laser, and then I would tune that for sprint to fire speed and ADS speed, which I think that's all the variations. I don't really add any barrel, although if you add the heated madness and then you have this Raid 3 camo on it, looks very, very clean. And then for the last attachment, for the last two attachments, because we have a lot of recoil control, we are going to go ahead and bring up that mobility by adding the true tag grip and tuning that for more mobility. And then lastly, for the stock, we are going to be running the Pro Light stock, although this might make the weapon a little bit bouncy, and if you're a little bit newer to the game, you're not going to really like the Pro Light, so then I would add the KASTOV Rama, which is basically going to do the same thing as the Pro Light, but it's not going to have as many cons and it's not going to have as many pros, more of a neutral attachment. And then you want to tune both of those the same way. And so I think that is going to wrap it up for the KASTOV 762. So now let's go over to the KASTOV 74U, which I just realized every class I'm giving you in this video is a assault rifle. So quickly at the very end, with no face cam, I'll show you some very good submachine gun builds. But with that said, this gun basically feels like a submachine gun. This is an AR with the mobility of an SMG, and it still has, like, you know, the damage and damage range of a AR. It just has the mobility and the recoil control of an SMG, so it is a little bit hard to use at long range, but you still can easily use it at long range. And this is actually one of the, or if not the most broken gun in the game, because it has all the attributes of an AR with a 2-shot kill headshot, plus it has the mobility of an SMG. This is actually what I dropped my first MGB nuke with. So if you don't have the MGB, I actually would use its exact setup. This is going to be the best gun in the game. Got the Sock and Tread 40 to reduce that vertical recoil and get a little bit of horizontal recoil control. Tune it the same way. We got the Phase 3 grip. This is going to be a very good underbarrel for this weapon because it removes all the idle sway, plus adds a lot of recoil control without really hurting the mobility whatsoever. This underbarrel is very good on all the other builds I showed you in this video. We are running a laser, which I know a lot of you guys don't like the lasers because they are pretty bright. So if you don't want to run a laser, then I would throw in an optic, a magazine, or an ammo. In this case, you actually could run a barrel, which the barrel I really like is the BR209 barrel. And then I'll just throw this on there real quick just to show you guys the tunes M4, bring up the recoil steadiness, and then bring up the ADS speed because the damage range on the weapon's already pretty good. And so now you actually have a lot of mobility without having a laser. It's just the gun's gonna have a little bit more recoil, which is why I'm running the laser, but I still run the BR-209 barrel a lot of the time. And lastly, we are going to be bringing up that mobility again, which a great way to do so is by adding the Ultra Z stock, which increases that sprint to fire, that sprint speed and the aim walking speed, and then you want to tune it for a little bit more mobility. And lastly, we got the True Tag grip to bring up that sprint to fire speed and the ADS speed, and then again tune it for more mobility, which that is going to wrap it up for the KASTOV 74U. And just in case you guys do want these screenshots, here you guys go, which that is going to wrap it up for the KASTOV 74U. And just in case you guys do want these screenshots, here you guys go. And for the last setup, we are going to be going over the Chimera, and keep in mind I will be showing you guys very good SMG classes very quickly at the end of the video. But before that, this Chimera, this thing is absolutely incredible. I did build this for shipment. I don't really like the Chimera off of shipment. This is like the only build I like for the gun. I have a lot of good builds. Right there, it looked like a lot of recoil control. I just forgot how to control recoil. Plus, I got like a full mobility setup on this thing with a lot of ammo because on shipment, all your engagements are so close range, so you don't really need that much recoil control. And this is literally one of my favorite, if not my favorite gun to use on shipment. Please use this weapon and let me know how you guys like it. So for the class, we got the laser to add a lot of mobility, and on shipment, the enemies don't really see the laser. If you don't want to run a laser, honestly, I would stay away from the barrels and maybe just add an ammo. Yeah, I'd probably add an ammo, and then if you don't like the iron sights, I would just add an optic. For the underbarrel, you can swap this out for like the Edge 47. This is going to give you the most amount of recoil control, but then it's going to hurt the mobility the most. The next thing down is the Commando foregrip, and then the one below that is going to be the Phase 3 grip, and then the one below that is the Shark Fin 90. And so you guys should be able to kind of figure out which one's best for you, and you want to tune them all the same exact way. And then for the magazine, we are running the 45 round mag because on shipping, you don't want to have to reload 24/7. If you don't want to run the 45, I would just run an ammo or an optic. And again, remember, stay away from the barrels. For the rear grip, we are running the Bruin Flash grip to bring up that mobility. And of course, you do want to tune it for mobility. And then lastly, we are running the Ravage 10 stock. Tried out the TRX, but I just found that the weapon felt a little bit clunky, and I was having the most fun with the Ravage 10. And then of course, you want to tune it for the ADS speed and the aim walking speed. I think I do have one like long range build that I use to get like long shots or something. This setup isn't bad, it's just a little bit slower, and so I do like the other build. Maybe if I'm on like a bigger map, I'll use this one because it has a lot more damage range. Honestly, this one feels pretty good. I just prefer the other build on the Chimera. Overall, the Chimera is actually like one of the hardest guns to make for a class because it just feels a little bit wonky, like no matter how you build it. Like I've tried everyone's class and it still feels a little bit weird. Besides that first build I showed you, that one's so fun to use on shipment, which here's the screenshot in case you guys want that. And then I'll show you guys the screenshot for the shipment build, which is my favorite build to use on shipment. And that is going to wrap it up for all the main classes I want to show you. And quickly, I'll show you guys the Vasnev. This is the best SMG in the game, just statistically, you know, mobility and recoil control. It's just all around. This thing is so freaking good, although it might feel like a pea shooter, so you might want to add the cost barrel and then tune that for the recoil steadiness and the ADS speed. So more people like this build right here, but I prefer this build with no barrel. And then what you guys could also do if you want more recoil control is add the Commando foregrip with the same tuning as the Shark Fin, which that is going to wrap it up for the Vasnev. Here's a quick ISO setup. This is like a top 10 best class setup, but these setups are so good. If you use any of these, you will literally be performing so well in the game. I do have a couple other ISO setups I like, but this is the one I want to show you guys because the weapon just got nerfed, and I found that this is like probably the best setup. And then for this next setup, this is going to be the LACHMANN sub, which this setup is a little bit hard to use because there's a lot of recoil, but you have so much mobility. And with this gun, you kind of got to be like very close range, but if you want the best at the game, you'll probably like this setup more, and you basically want to tune everything the same way. The last setup I'm going to show you is absolutely incredible. And, you know, do not use the Bruin now. Use the Spiral Flash Hider. I guess they have like the same stats. It's just this one has a little bit of a quicker ADS speed, and then tune it the same way that we usually tune the Spiral Flash Hider, which that's going to wrap it up for the LACHMANN sub. Now let's get into the MP7. This build is so fun to use. I absolutely love this gun. Probably actually my favorite gun in the game. If I do want more mobility, I will will take off the spiral flash hider, and so that's just like however I'm feeling at the moment. And then you want to tune those the same way. For the magazine, you want to use the 50 round mag if you are on ship, and this actually isn't going to give you any cons. I know it says it, but this doesn't give you any cons. The 60 will, 50 does not. And then the 30 we just use it because it gives you a lot of mobility. You don't need like that much ammo. This is like one of my favorite setups in ranked play. And then for the last setup in this video, the Boss P got a massive buff in the Season 3 Reloaded update, so it is a meta weapon. So in this setup, we got a pretty basic setup. We use the same attachments on like every single build. Sometimes I will run the Shark Fin 90 instead of the Phase 3 if I want a little bit of a quicker ADS, and I use this exact setup in ranked. I just take off the overpressured rounds. We got the Bruin Flash on here for a little bit more mobility, and then for the stock, we got the Bruin Flash stock for a little bit more mobility. So with all that said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys did find it helpful, a like is appreciated, and if you want to get better at the game, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. But thank you so much for watching, and doses.